Good to see you, Sheena. I'm so excited that Olivine's doing this.
Me too. Yeah. So we had discussed doing some sort of like video series with product marketing leaders, and we thought the cookbook would be a really great place to start. And since you were a core contributor there, you're our first guest. So
All right, sweet.
tell me, who are you? Do a little introduction. Where are you at these days? And how did you get into product marketing?
Yes, me. Okay, so I'm Angie, product marketing manager, and I really started my product marketing journey with Olivine. Like I was a generalist marketer in vacation rental slash hospitality industry, and I knew I wanted to like get into more foundational strategic work. Like at the time I was running ads and writing blogs, and I wanted to do more in terms of like connecting deeper to the company strategy and what is the actual message we're taking to the market. And it was like B2C, B2B, but stumbling into product marketing through Olivine, it was like an entirely different world of B2B SaaS. But just working on positioning and messaging guides, like right away, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do, where you're really building the foundation of how you talk about a product. And you prioritize, you create like a hierarchy, right, for product features and what categories they fit into. And yeah, so I just became really passionate about product marketing through that. But right now I'm based in Paris. And yeah, in Montmartre, 18e arrondissement, and if anyone wants to hang out at the 18th.
Love it.
And like it was really cool timing with joining Olivine, because at the time I was wanting to move abroad. And so I was kind of like doing remote marketing work, and obviously Olivine is completely remote as well. So it was just like such a good facilitation to like working with Olivine really facilitated me to like sustain myself abroad and like really live abroad for the first time on a long-term basis. And then now I'm like more established in Paris as a product marketer in my career. And actually the community, the product marketing community here is really cool. Like it's growing. It's definitely, whenever I go to product marketing meetups, there's always like a ton of people. And so it's a really good hub. It's a really good hub. It's a really good hub for tech companies and the hugs.
Yeah. I love it. So first off, one thing about Olivine that I love is that we often hire people who don't have traditional product marketing backgrounds, and we've found that that adds like such a diverse taste to the type of work that we do, and it actually really enables us to do more. So I love that we found you. I think, you're one of the best people that we've worked with, and we miss you. How did you, so based on the background that you had coming into this product marketing work, did you start to see how it really is such a foundational piece of that other generalist work that you were talking about, how it all influences that? And yeah, just like how businesses should really have product marketing at the core.
That's a good question. I think like we could all see product marketing, right, as being this foundational piece, but then I think like advocating for that and educating that within the org you're at is a different story, right? And you have to really like show how the product marketing work is fundamentally different from running ads, writing blogs. Like that's like those are the downstream efforts, right? And so I think like working at Olivine really helped me see how that's done, because we would always be running through workshops with clients, and like we're going to run through personas, jobs to be done, positioning and messaging. And there's always like a wider project or engagement at hand, and that stuff was going to come after the foundational work. So whether it was like our client wanted to do a website refresh or raising for their whatever series they're on, or I don't know, like what were examples of client projects besides like website refreshes?
I mean, we had a lot of sales enablement.
There's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, sales enablement, like you're always referring back to the positioning messaging guide of like, okay, we're gonna, sales team is working on selling this product. Okay, like they need a one pager, they need a sales deck, whatever. Like you're always going back to the positioning messaging guide. And so I always it was like really easy to connect the dots through the work with Olivine. And so like now I'm actually working for, I didn't say this earlier, but I'm working for a German startup. They're called Perspective, and they're basically like a landing page builder. It's optimized for mobile, so really good with getting higher conversions on mobile devices. Super easy to build these landing pages. And so it's been interesting, like going into a product-led org where I was the first product marketer they hired. And so there has been a lot of like advocacy I've had to do to explain like why user segmentation, for example, like doing personas and user segmentation is important to like divide up the different types of users we have, because they, whether they have different use cases or they're on different plans with different access features, like they need different experiences in our app. And so I think like it's helped to do that foundational product marketing work and then be able to like send users different messages in the app depending on like what kind of user they are, right? Like if they're like a beginner user in the free trial versus like a power user who's like knows their way around the software, you know, and that's like the downstream effort stuff of like, that's the actual stuff you can track of like how many people are engaging with this in-app pop-up, or like are they taking the action we want them to take. But yeah, I don't know, that was a long-winded answer. I think I got off topic, but
yeah, I feel like, I mean, even what you just said, it really goes back to simple things like personas and jobs to be done. Like who are we reaching with this message and what do they need to accomplish? So great answer.
Yeah, and also like just one piece I want to speak to too, which maybe this will come up later, but like it's cool doing like being the first product marketer and doing the first product marketing projects in smaller orgs, because like for example, you can kill two birds with one stone, and you're always having to like juggle the strategic foundational work with like quick wins, right? Especially in a startup environment, like you need to just be like delivering all the time. But what you can do, especially if you're in a smaller org, is like, let's say you need to investigate an issue or something or find out the root cause of something, you might be able to fold a strategic product marketing project into it. So like, for example, we like sometime last year, we had to figure out like, why are so many people dropping off during onboarding, like our 14-day free trial. And so I paired up with our product manager and we were like researching, we were looking through all of the churn survey data and just like, and then at the same time, I was like interviewing 10 customers who had churned, whatever, to get more nuance and context as to why they churned. And so I was able to like create some core personas out of that. And then we could, also look into the churn survey data we already had and like conclude what type of persona that this person probably was, and like connect the persona to the qualitative data we already had. And so it was a sweet way to like fold the product marketing work into like, I guess the research project was product marketing as well, but it was more of like an urgent issue for the company to figure out like, oh my gosh, why are so many people dropping off from our free trial?
And now how is it? How's the free trial doing now that you've done that work?
It's been better. We found out like it's definitely seasonal as to like how many people stick around in the product, but overall, like it gave us a way better understanding of like what projects can we tackle that will make a difference. Whether it's like, okay, now we know that people don't really like understand what to do once they get into the product. Let's see if an onboarding tour helps or not. Like it gave us like more of a basis for running experiments in the product and in the app, to then gauge like, okay, did this actually help based on the feedback that we organized, or do we need to try something else? Like it was kind of like a great jumping point for experimentation and just like launching like some quick wins too.
That's awesome.
But all of mine, like working with various B2B SaaS companies, a lot of them were sales led, like maybe Series B, Series C. But I did work on some more early stage startups and more product led stuff. And so going into perspective as the first product marketer, where my focus was more on user activation, adoption, it was really interesting to still tie in like the same product marketing foundational work that we would do for any kind of company, right? With personas, job speed, and positioning and messaging, but then really apply it to like a purely product led go to market. So for example, in doing a personas project and starting to segment out our users, we were able to then start to customize like the user onboarding journey with like, okay, they're coming into the product for this use case. So we're going to show them how to use the product for this use case, number 1, 2, 3. And I think without doing the foundational product marketing work and the personas and figuring out the jobs to be done, like we wouldn't have been able to do those customized onboarding journeys. And then we wouldn't have been able to like measure, okay, how is this cohort activating versus this one? And we wouldn't be able to really like actually experiment or test things. So I thought it was really cool to like apply kind of foundational product marketing work to a purely product-led environment.
Cool.
Because it's all like the same foundational stuff you're doing. You're just applying it in a different way, obviously, depending on the go-to-market strategy.
When I've spoken to different companies that are product led, they do need a lot of the same things. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'll totally
Yeah.
say that. Yeah.
They for sure do. Because instead of like the personas of, I don't know, like for example, if you're working with product-led companies and they don't have like they're not selling to enterprise, let's say they're selling to like SMBs or like really small teams or even like even like one buyer persona, then it's just a matter of like, okay, your personas are going to look different. You're not going to be selling to a sales team, let's say, or like you're not going to be selling to like a team of stakeholders in the org. You're just going to be selling to like this average Joe over here. But it's still a persona at the end of the day. And like they still rank differently. You still prioritize them. You still rank them of like, who do we care about the most? Which one do we want to talk to on our website? Like it still applies the same way. But it definitely was like crazy joining this org when I first did, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is all so focused on like user data, and it's all about, it kind of takes away, it kind of takes away the human aspect of product. For me personally, I felt like it took away the human aspect because you're just really like looking at users as numbers,
Interesting.
and how they're using the product and product usage data and stuff, and not necessarily like enabling the sales team. We don't have a sales team, you
Wow.
know.
Yeah, totally.
It's literally so self-serve. So yeah, like then the relationships shift and you're focused more on being really tight with the product managers who are shipping all these features, and like being really tight with the product team versus, there's no sales teams. Like your relationships change too. Whereas like at Olivine, I feel like a lot of it was more sales enablement stuff.
Totally. Okay, so I want to pivot into the cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, a lot of what you shared actually guides us there in a really great way, because you're talking a lot about your early product marketing experience with Olivine, and now you're finally in-house with this company. So our cookbook is all around those first 30, 60, and 90 days as a product marketer in a new role. And so walk us through sort of like your contribution and really how you see it just supporting product marketers in new roles, either first-time product marketers or just new roles at new companies.
Yeah, for sure. So what I was doing with the cookbook was I did have a chapter where I'm the author of the toolkit chapter, like what tools are at your disposal as a PMM, especially free ones. Um, yeah, and like just tools that will help you out as a product marketer. It was funny because like writing this, I'm like, yeah, all these free tools are great, but I think the reality of it too is like I wish I could have kind of added that like companies will have their own tools in place already, and you can usually you should be set up pretty well, unless you're in like a really small org and it's like really early stage startup. Like I think most companies will have like good tools in place for you to use. Like I think the core ones that I always come back to as a product marketer in terms of tools are like, where's my documentation and where's my project management? And I think this is pretty standard across companies, but for us, that's Notion. And Notion is like
Love
our
Notion.
number one. We even killed Asana. Like we killed off Asana. We like only use Notion. Yes, and I do love it. I do love it.
Yeah, that's
So that's like where, the research lives, the personas live, and where you can really tie everything in together too, of like, hey, we're launching these features. Let's link it to this persona from this persona table we have. Like these are the relevant, these are the relevant personas. It ties to this OKR or this goal. Like you really can't connect everything. I would say like whatever you're using for project management, I think it's so key to really link, like, how do I say this? Like being really organized with how your project doc is laid out, but then also like really linking it to everything that's affected by your project, because product marketing work is so like cross-functional. It affects a lot of different departments. So like linking to like, if you're launching features, like, okay, what personas is this for? Who does it affect? Like, where does it connect to the OKR? Like link that in too, like I think that just really helps to show like how strategic product marketing work can be and is. But yeah, I mean, like it was pretty fun running through the toolkit chapter. Like I'm looking at it now, and I would say like I think I had the most straightforward chapter in writing this. But then another piece that I contributed to with the cookbook was just general like proofreading, editing, which I always have a lot of fun doing. So it was really fun just to like also look over the whole thing and help edit bits and bobs, besides the toolkit chapter.
Awesome. And just, as you think about the whole thing, how do you think people could really use it? So like, again, like new people, brand new product marketers, or people who are, at new companies and new product marketing roles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I do think this is a great 30, 60, 90-day roadmap. Of course it is. Like, getting your feet wet, like jumping into the org, learning as fast as you can from other stakeholders and just about the industry, the product, your competitors. But honestly, I feel like the cookbook could be a guidebook just in general of like your product marketing philosophy, because you never really will stop learning about the the product will always be evolving. So you always have to stay on top of how the product's changing and what's getting built, what's even getting sunsetted. Your customers also will evolve. You'll probably have different customer segments, different personas. The competitive landscape will be changing, the industry changes. So it is about building a strong foundation within the first 90 days, but I always like go back to doing these things. Like they kind of just become your practice and your habit as a product marketer, right? Like whether you're like educating yourself on a quarterly basis or you're even booking it into your weekly agenda. It's cliche, but the learning never stops. So I think the cookbook is applicable both to new product marketers, but also just if you want to refresh on, hey, what are the habits I feel like I'm kind of lagging on, and I want to remind myself of how important this is and why. And I think it's cool that the cookbook does explain the why behind, like, okay, why do we want to, I want to like pull from an example here. I don't know, I just feel like there's like great justification for all the things you should do. Like the cookbook tells you what to do, but tells you why, and like it explains the value behind it, and it's just very straightforward. There's no fluff or BS. Like it's a great guidebook, I would say.
I think it's super helpful for new people too, because they don't always really know the why, and that's okay. I think it's totally okay. I think you have an interest in product marketing, you get into it, but I think the why comes with some lived experience. And so being able to gut check that with something like this cookbook, I think is super helpful. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
switching gears a little bit, so based on the product marketing experience that you have to this point, what are some insights that you've gathered either through, projects that you've worked on or relationships that you've built, or really just, switching from the agency world to in-house, anything? I'm just giving you like examples to pull that you could offer new product marketers or people who are looking to get into product marketing.
Oh, it's such a good question. It could go so many different ways. Okay, so like what have I learned from my product marketing journey so far that I could offer other new product marketers? Okay, I have an answer in mind, but maybe I could expand on other things too. But the first thing that comes to mind is it's a little cliche to say, but I think I'll never stop advocating for product marketing no matter what role I'm in, because it still is very widely it still is like widely misunderstood to some degree, and it really depends on if you're working with people who've worked with product marketers before. If they haven't, like they might not really understand your role, so you can't assume that other people know what product marketing is or like what you typically work on. And so I found that, like, especially in my role now, that socializing what I'm doing and why, and kind of like going back to my philosophy towards product marketing, like the basics of, okay, it's part research, it's part positioning and messaging, it's part go to market, and really just going back to just advocating for product marketing, socializing what I'm doing. I think that will never stop, and I would always I definitely encourage new product marketers to think about the socialization piece. Is like, this will always probably be a part of your role. You should always be communicating what you're doing and why, and like really making a business case for why we should be making personas if the company doesn't have them in place. Like, expect CEOs to push back on you for that if they don't necessarily like understand why you would make personas. Like, oh, don't we need to care about all of our users? Like, maybe we don't. Like, let's figure out why. Like, let's figure out which ones have, which ones retain better, and how they're acting in our app. Like, I don't know, just I think the socialization piece has been big for me in this role. Yeah, I think socialization and advocacy for product marketing, like, that's something you're always going to want to do as a product marketer. Just because if people haven't worked with product marketing before, they might not fully understand, personas, jobs to be done, positioning, the value of a positioning and messaging guide. So then communicating what you're doing and why, making the business case for projects you want to work on that might not be, that might not be seen as valuable as like a quick win, like really balancing what you go for, like balancing strategic and quick wins. Yeah, and just see socializing as like a core part of your job.
I love that. I feel like over communication drives alignment, and we need alignment. Like you said before, it's such a cross-functional role. Like, we touch so many different parts of the business. I think that's such a strong insight. What about tips for product marketers who are looking to work abroad? Like, obviously you were very, this was aligned. Like, this was an aligned path for you. But, is there anything that you could offer that's in here?
Cool. Oh, that's a fun question. Okay, working abroad in product marketing. I mean, one thing that my experience with Olivine taught me is that you really can carve your own path no matter what job field you're in. You can make remote work happen for you if that's what you want. Like, it's certainly feasible in this day and age. And so I think freelance product marketing is such a great way to facilitate that if you do want to work. If you're from the States and you want to work abroad, freelance product marketing opportunities are certainly out there. I found that with Olivine. And then comes down comes down to luck. I had that Italian passport, but I had that dual nationality. No, but you can look into, like, if people are keen on working abroad, like, you can look into countries where, like, for example, even though I have dual EU citizenship and I can like work from anywhere in the EU by law, there's still ways to live in France or anywhere in the EU through different types of work visas. Like, you can set up your own, what they call in France is a micro-entreprise, but basically it's just like a business under your name. I don't know how to say it in English. You can work your way into France or different countries in Europe, even if you don't have the citizenship or like a straightforward way to live there. You can still get in through work visas, or it just depends on like where you want to work, and your own situation. But it's been really fun, like, discovering the product marketing community in a different country and feeling the French passion, the French fire for it.
I love it. It's very clear that you want to flex some of your French. So this next question, feel free to answer in both English and French. Just tell us about your life in Paris. Like, what have been some of your favorite things? Like, what are you learning about yourself being in such a new place? I'd love to hear that personally.
Isn't it? Yeah, I ended up in Paris so unexpectedly, and now it's been like a year and a half living here, and I love it. I didn't know I was a big city girly, but I am. And so I love the walkability, the morning croissant. It's just it feels very easy, and it feels very easy to live here. Just like how close and quaint everything is. Getting around the city, and it's very approachable. I would say it's a little bit maybe misunderstood from the outsider. A lot of people assume that Parisians will be rude or like they're worried about their French, but I think it's very approachable. I think the stereotypes are not true. I've had nothing but a really welcoming, good, and warm time here. Of course, it's still a big city, so you still have that like grittiness to it, and people aren't, you know, people will be probably too busy to like help you out all the time. Overall, it is just such a relaxing city. I love all the neighborhoods, all the arrondissements. But yeah, it's a cool view.
Did you learn French being there, or did you start learning beforehand?
Yeah, I started learning once I got here, and I will say that all the folks who are trying to move to France, like you should start learning now. No, I'm in classes. This is another cool thing, like with education, it's just more, it feels more accessible here, but the town hall of Paris sets up these subsidized French classes. And so I'm currently in one of them like twice a week, set up by town hall. It's only like 150 euros for a whole semester. And these are like legit French classes. So it's a super, there's like tons of resources for learning French once you get here, and the immersion does help, but it's not the easiest language. Like I will say Spanish will always be the number one in my heart. And then
Same.
but French is really cool once you kind of get the hang of it. You're like, okay, yeah, this is sweet. It's definitely like less straightforward. The pronunciation's a bit hard, like especially comprehension for me, I struggle with. Like I can kind of speak it all day and like seem decent, but like when it comes to comprehension, it's actually quite hard.
Yeah.
So
Well,
but it's been fun.
you're looking very Parisian. I love the hoops. I like that the natural lip balm that you've got going. The one piece of
I know it's so funny. People say I don't get it because people are like you look so French. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like I had no idea I looked French, but I even got that before I moved here. So I don't know. I think like my siblings and I, we all kind of have this look where like we probably could look like we're from a few different countries. So sometimes we get like Spain or France, Italy.
Yeah. I love it. From the barn to the big city, to the Parisian big city. Amazing.